Welcome to the Imaginal door. Before we begin, settle in and remember this. Imagination is not idle daydreaming. It is the workshop where your life is quietly made. Let's step inside. What if the memory is not haunting you because it is powerful, but because you keep giving it the seat of God inside you? That is the first place revision becomes serious. Not pretty, not decorative, serious. Neville did not teach revision as a sentimental exercise where you pretend the past was pleasant. He taught it as an act of spiritual authority. The imagination, to Neville, is not a faculty you use when life becomes unbearable. Imagination is the very reality in which you are already living. The scene you keep replaying is not merely a record. It is an altar. Every time you return to it with the same helpless identity, you are consenting again to the self it named. Here is what no one tells you about the memory you cannot forget. The pain is often no longer in the event. The pain is in the conclusion you accepted about yourself inside the event. Mara was 36 when she wrote down the scene she had been carrying since a winter dinner in Portland. Her father had laughed at her career change in front of the family, not loudly, not dramatically, just a short, dismissive laugh while he passed the salt. "You always start things," he said, "but you never become anything." Years later, she could still hear the fork touch the plate. She could still feel the heat in her throat. The event lasted 10 seconds. The sentence became a home. Most manifestation advice says, release it and move on. That sounds wise until you notice that the one trying to move on is still the person who was humiliated at the table. Neville's work goes deeper. You do not release a scene while remaining its victim. You revise the scene from the level of identity. You stop asking the memory for permission to be whole. The old assumption that keeps you stuck is this: because it happened, it defines me. That assumption hides under many spiritual phrases. I am just being realistic. I am honoring my past. I cannot lie to myself. But revision is not lying. Revision is refusing to let an outer occurrence be the final creative word in consciousness. In Neville's language, the world is a shadow and consciousness is the substance. You are not denying that you once experienced something. You are withdrawing creative loyalty from the meaning it imposed. So the imaginal act must be small enough to feel true and strong enough to dethrone the wound. Do not build a grand fantasy. Do not try to rewrite your entire childhood in one heroic session. Enter the single moment. Sit in a chair before sleep, or lie down when the body begins to grow heavy. Let the room soften. Let the breath become quiet. Then bring the painful scene near enough to locate its emotional center, but not so near that you drown in it. Find the exact second where you were named by pain. For Mara, it was the laugh. In revision, she did not make her father give a speech. She did not imagine applause. She changed the authority of the moment. She heard him pause, look at her with quiet respect and say, "You know who you are. I can see that now." Then she felt her own shoulders settle, not triumphant, settled. That was the key. She did not revise him to worship her. She revised herself out of the state that needed his verdict. Feel this carefully. The purpose is not to control the person in memory. The purpose is to move into the state of the one who was never inwardly reduced. Before you sleep tonight, choose the one painful scene that still feels crowned. Write one sentence beneath it. This scene no longer names me. Then enter a drowsy state and replay only 5 to 10 seconds differently. Hear one line that restores your inner dignity. Feel the body receive it. Loop it gently, not mechanically, until the revised version feels less like invention and more like a recovered truth. Ask yourself this: what did that memory teach you to believe you had to be? Do not answer quickly. Let the question expose the false name. The real revision begins when you stop changing the furniture of the scene and start changing the self who stands inside it. A painful memory loses power when it is no longer allowed to define the one who remembers. But once the memory is removed from the throne, you must learn how to stop feeding it with the same old emotional rehearsal. You are not only remembering what happened, you may be practicing the aftershock as though it still needs to be kept alive. This is a hard sentence, but it is merciful. Neville's revision asks you to notice not merely the event, but the rhythm that follows the event. The mind has a strange loyalty to injuries. It says, I am replaying this so it will not happen again. But very often it is not protecting you. It is rehearsing the same state. The body tightens, the face grows guarded, the inner voice returns to the courtroom, and the old self is resurrected. Neville called revision the great tool for pruning the mind. Not pruning outer facts, pruning the inner continuation of facts. The real branch that keeps growing is the emotional afterlife of the scene. Dylan carried a memory from a breakup outside a pharmacy on a rainy Tuesday in Leeds. His partner, Alina, had said, I do not feel close to you anymore, and then stepped into a taxi. For 3 years, the moment returned whenever he tried to love again. Not the whole relationship, not even the breakup, the taxi door, the red brake light, the feeling of standing on the curb as the chosen one drove away. Most people would tell Dylan to process the grief. There is a place for honest feeling, but Neville would ask a sharper question. What identity is being rehearsed every time the red brake light appears? Dylan was not only grieving Alina, he was practicing abandonment. He was imagining from the state of the one left behind. That is where you stay stuck. You think the wound is asking for more analysis, but it is often asking for a new ending. Analysis may explain the prison. It does not necessarily open the door. I have watched this turn quietly again and again. The person who thinks they need one more explanation usually needs one clean, imaginal experience of being safe after the scene. The old assumption says, the shock proves I am still there. So every remembrance becomes a return trip. You do not visit the memory. You move back into the same body, the same breath, the same verdict. Counterintuitive as it sounds, the mind may prefer familiar pain to unfamiliar freedom. Pain feels like evidence. Peace feels irresponsible. So work with the aftershock directly. Do not revise the whole event at first. Revise the next minute. Enter the state akin to sleep when the mind is pliable and the senses are quiet. Let the painful moment arise only enough to identify its ending. Then do not continue into the old aftermath. Interrupt it. For Dylan, the taxi did not remain the final image. In revision, after the door closed, he felt his phone vibrate. He looked down and saw a message from himself, not from Alina. It said, "You are held. Come home." Then he imagined walking into a small cafe across the street, ordering tea, sitting by the window, and feeling warmth return to his hands. That may sound too simple. Good. Neville's imaginal acts often work by naturalness, not theatrics. The mind is impressed by felt reality. You are not trying to create a cinematic masterpiece. You are giving consciousness a new path to travel when the old cue appears. The technique is this. Identify the aftershock, then revise the first action your inner self takes after the wound. If the old version is collapsing on the bed, imagine washing your face with steady hands. If the old version is begging for a reply, imagine closing the phone and feeling chosen from within. If the old version is sitting in the car shaking, imagine hearing a trusted friend say, "You are all right now," and feel that sentence enter the nervous system as fact. Tonight, choose one memory and ask, what happens immediately after it? That after moment is your doorway. In drowsiness, change it. Do not strain. Repeat the revised aftermath 3 or 4 times until your body knows the new route. Then sleep as the person who did not spiral after the scene. There is a myth that healing means the memory never appears again. No. In revision, the memory may still appear, but it arrives without its old command. It becomes a picture without a throne, a sound without a sentence, a doorway without chains. The scene is not finished when the event ends. It is finished when your assumption after it changes. And the next layer is subtler. Sometimes the wound survives because you keep giving the other person the final line. The sentence that wounded you may not be the sentence that has to finish the story. Neville gave enormous importance to inner speech. He did not treat it as harmless commentary. Inner conversations are creative acts. They are imaginal scenes in verbal form. When you keep hearing what someone said, then answer them in your mind from the same wounded state, you are not just thinking. You are continuing the relationship between consciousness and assumption. This matters deeply when revising a painful memory. Many people try to change the image while leaving the old sentence untouched. They imagine the room differently, the expression differently, the ending differently, but the same phrase still echoes. You are too much. I never loved you. You failed. No one asked for you. That phrase becomes a seed, and because it is repeated with feeling, it feels sacred. It is not sacred, it is memorized. Nadia's memory lived in a hospital hallway in Atlanta. She was 22, standing near a vending machine when her older sister snapped, "You make everything harder." The family was under stress. Everyone was exhausted, but Nadia received the sentence as a verdict. Years later, when anyone looked tired near her, she became apologetic. She over-explained. She shrank. She tried to be easy to love. Most manifestation teaching tells you to replace negative thoughts with positive ones. That is too thin for a sentence that entered you during pain. Neville's approach is not mere affirmation. It is revision through experienced speech. The new word must be heard, received, and occupied. It must come from the end. The stuckness here is not that someone spoke harshly. The stuckness is that you silently appointed them as the narrator of your being. Every time Nadia felt unwanted, she heard her sister's voice again and then lived as the difficult one. She did not need to force her sister to become kind. She needed to remove her sister from the pulpit inside her. The Imaginal technique is controlled inner conversation. You do not argue. Arguing keeps the old state alive. You do not cross-examine the person. You do not finally prove your point in a fantasy courtroom. That feels satisfying for 5 seconds and leaves the wound intact. Instead, you create a new conversation that could only happen if the old assumption were no longer true. In the drowsy borderland before sleep, Nadia imagined the same hallway. The vending machine hummed. The floor shone under fluorescent lights. But this time her sister turned to her, softened, and said, "I was scared. You were never the burden." Nadia did not explain. She did not defend. She simply breathed as if those words were natural. Then she added one more line from her own mouth. "I do not carry that name anymore." That second line is essential. Revision is not complete if the other person speaks kindly, but you remain dependent on their kindness. In Neville's world, everyone is yourself pushed out, but that does not mean your freedom waits on another human performance. It means the figures in your inner world reveal the state you occupy. So let the other speak from harmony, yes, but also let your own inner being accept the new identity. Here is a direct question. Whose sentence have you mistaken for law? Do not rush past that. You may discover that one teacher, one parent, one ex, one friend, one version of yourself at 15 has been allowed to speak as if creation itself agreed with them. It does not. Tonight's practice is precise. Write down the single sentence from the memory that still stings. Then cross it out once, not angrily but with finality. Enter Sats. Hear the person say one revised sentence that releases you from the old role. Keep it short. Make it human, not poetic, human. Then hear yourself answer from dignity. Repeat the exchange until the old phrase feels less automatic. A myth bust. You do not need to believe the new sentence perfectly before you imagine it. Belief is often the fruit of repeated occupancy, not the entrance fee. Neville taught persistence in an assumption because consciousness hardens into fact through continued acceptance. You enter first. Naturalness follows. The final word in your inner world belongs to the state you choose, not to the voice that hurt you. Once the sentence is revised, the next task is to change the place where the memory lives inside your body. You cannot revise a wound only in words if your body is still kneeling in the old scene. Neville's phrase, "feeling is the secret," is often flattened into emotional intensity. People think they must generate a huge mood, a dramatic wave, a spiritual high. That is not the secret. The secret is felt reality. The body, the senses, the quiet conviction that this is so. Revision becomes powerful when the revised scene is not just seen, but inhabited. A painful memory usually has a physical signature. A tight throat, a drop in the stomach, a clenched jaw, a coldness in the hands. These are not enemies. They are clues. They show you where the old assumption has become embodied. Take Jonah, who could not forget a presentation in a glass conference room in Singapore. His laptop froze halfway through a client pitch. A senior partner sighed, took over and said, "Let's move this along." No one yelled. No disaster followed. But Jonah's body recorded the moment as exposure. Years later, even opening a slide deck made his chest constrict. His mind said, "I am prepared." His body said, "I am about to be exposed." Most advice says, visualize success. That is too general. Neville's revision is not generic confidence painted over panic. It is a sensory correction of the exact inner fact. The old assumption here is not, "I had one bad meeting." It is, "When I am seen, I am unsafe." Unless that assumption is revised in the felt sense, the mind may speak brave words while the body remains in exile. So the technique must bring the body into the new end. Begin with stillness. Let the body settle into heaviness before sleep. Then call up the painful scene lightly, only as a doorway. Do not replay it in full. Notice where it grips you. For Jonah, it was the chest. Then build a revised scene that gives that exact place a new message. He imagined standing in the same glass room. The laptop screen glowed steadily. The senior partner leaned back, relaxed. Jonah felt both feet on the floor. Then he heard the small sound of someone uncapping a pen to take notes. That was his sensory fact, not applause, not a promotion. The ordinary sound of being received. He felt his chest widen as he continued speaking. He ended the scene with a handshake, but the handshake was not the center. The open chest was the center. This is where many people miss the door. They revise for outer drama instead of inner relief. They imagine the person apologizing, the room cheering, the world proving them right. But the consciousness that needs spectacle may still be the consciousness of injury. The revised state is often quieter. It feels like, "Of course I am safe here." I have watched the most stubborn memories soften when the body is given one new sensory fact. A warm hand on the shoulder, the weight of a blanket, the sound of rain outside while you feel protected inside, the smell of coffee in a room where you are accepted. These humble details impress the subconscious because they feel lived. Tonight, locate the memory in the body. Do not analyze it. Ask, where does the old scene still live? Then create a 10-second imaginal act that changes the sensation. If your throat closes, revise with your voice steady and heard. If your stomach drops, revise with your abdomen relaxed as someone smiles with understanding. If your hands go cold, revise with your hands warm around a mug while the situation has already resolved. A counterintuitive insight. You do not need to erase the body's reaction by force. Forcing calm often proves to the body that danger is still present. Instead, enter the drowsy state and let the revised scene gently teach the body a new conclusion. Neville's work is not disembodied mysticism. It is incarnation. The word becomes flesh. The assumption becomes posture, breath, gaze, timing. When the revised memory is accepted by the senses, it begins to feel less like a thought you are trying to hold and more like a place you have actually been. The body stops fearing the past when imagination gives it a new lived ending. And when the body has received the new ending, you must stop returning to the old version for emotional evidence. The past keeps convincing you because you keep putting it back on the witness stand. Neville's teaching on assumptions hardening into fact is not only about future desire, it is also about old pain. An assumption becomes convincing because consciousness feeds it with attention, inner speech, mood, and reaction. When a painful memory appears, the untrained mind says, "Look, there it is again. This proves I am not free." But the appearance of an old thought is not proof. It is an invitation to choose your state. There is a difference between remembering and recertifying. Remembering is a mental image arising. Recertifying is when you say, "Yes, this is still who I am." Revision removes the certificate. Lee had a memory from a school auditorium in Melbourne. At 17, she forgot the lines of a poem during a public recital. Someone in the back laughed. For 20 years, that laugh became evidence. Evidence that she was awkward. Evidence that her voice betrayed her. Evidence that being visible was dangerous. She built a life of competent invisibility. Good work, polite smiles, no stage. Then she began revising, and for a few nights it felt powerful. She imagined the recital ending with calm applause, her teacher squeezing her hand, her own voice steady. But during the day, if anyone invited her to speak in a meeting, she would mentally return to the auditorium and say, "See, this is why I cannot." That is how the old scene survived, not because the revision failed, because she kept feeding the old evidence after prayer. Most manifestation advice says to watch for signs that the new assumption is working. That is backwards for revision. If you watch the outer world anxiously, you are often standing in the old state asking whether you have been released. Neville's discipline is faithfulness to the unseen fact. You do not dig up the seed, and you do not keep interviewing the old witness. The inner principle is simple but demanding. Consciousness selects which version of the self is real by what it accepts as final. The old scene may knock. You do not have to open the door and serve it tea. The stuck pattern is subtle. You revise at night, then during the day you collect proof for the wound. You tell the story again. You test your body for pain. You compare today's feeling to yesterday's feeling. You ask, "Am I over it yet?" That question can become a trap because the one asking is often still enthralled by the old memory. So the technique here is a daytime revision seal. After your night practice, choose one short inner gesture to use whenever the old evidence appears. Not a long affirmation, not a debate, a seal. Lee used the phrase, "That was the old witness." When the auditorium laugh returned, she did not fight the image. She saw it as a witness from an old trial and inwardly dismissed it. Then she briefly felt her revised ending. The teacher's warm hand, the calm applause, her own breath steady. 5 seconds, no drama. This is not suppression. Suppression says, "I must not think of it." Revision says, "That version is no longer authoritative." There is a world of difference. Before sleep tonight, revise your chosen memory as usual. Then prepare your daytime seal. It may be a phrase. The record is changed. It may be a sensation. One hand resting on the heart as you feel the revised end. It may be an image, a door closing softly on the old courtroom. Tomorrow, when the old memory appears, do not panic. Do not treat its appearance as failure. Use the seal and return to the new fact. Here is the myth bust. Repetition of the old memory does not mean it is true. It often means it is habitual. A habit can be starved without hatred. You do not need to be violent with your mind. You need to be loyal. I will say this plainly. Some people do revision like a nightly ritual and then spend all day worshiping the wound. They call it honesty. It is not always honesty. Sometimes it is fidelity to an identity that has become familiar. The law answers fidelity. Ask yourself in the middle of the day when the old story returns, am I witnessing the past or am I renewing it? That question alone can wake you up. The memory fades in authority when you stop submitting fresh evidence to the old verdict. But there is an even finer discipline, revising not only what happened, but the meaning of who you were before it happened. You do not revise the past by abandoning the version of you who suffered. This is one of the most tender misunderstandings in spiritual work. People discover imagination, then become impatient with their former self. Why did I accept that? Why did I stay? Why did I freeze? They turn revision into another weapon. But Neville's teaching of states gives us a more compassionate precision. You were in a state. You are not the state. The self who froze, cried, begged, or disappeared was not your eternal identity. It was consciousness clothed in a condition. The work is not to shame that earlier self. The work is to rescue them from the only ending they knew. Amir remembered a night outside a train station in Toronto. He was 19. His mother had read his private journal and confronted him in the car. He felt exposed, invaded, and strangely guilty for being angry. He said nothing. He watched snow collect on the windshield and decided without words, my inner life is not safe. Decades later, even in loving relationships, he hid his real desires. He called it privacy. It was fear. Most advice says, forgive your younger self. That can be useful, but it often stays abstract. Neville's revision allows something more exact. You enter the imaginal scene as the fulfilled self and give the earlier self what they did not know they could receive. Not pity, authority, protection, a new inner parentage. The reason this memory remains stuck is that the earlier self is still alone in the scene. Every time Amir remembered the car, he saw the 19-year-old as trapped, silent, exposed. His current self had grown older, but the inner figure had not been retrieved. The state remained frozen in time. So enter the scene differently. In SATS, let the old location appear. The car, the station lights, the snow. Then introduce your present fulfilled self, not as a fantasy superhero, but as calm awareness. Neville spoke of imagination as the real man, the divine creative power. Let that power enter as presence. Amir imagined opening the passenger door. His older self sat beside the 19-year-old and placed a hand over the journal. He did not attack his mother. He did not stage a dramatic confrontation. He simply said to the younger self, your inner life belongs to you. You are safe with yourself. Then he imagined the younger Amir stepping out of the car and standing beneath the station lights, breathing cold air freely. The scene ended with the journal held against his chest, not hidden in shame, but kept in dignity. Notice the correction. He did not need his mother to become a villain or a saint. He revised the self's relationship to its own interior world. That is the Neville angle. The cause is not outside. The creative seat is within. Here is a counterintuitive truth. The younger self does not need endless sympathy. Sympathy can keep them injured. They need a new assumption embodied by you. They need you to stop saying, that poor version of me, and start saying, that was consciousness before it remembered its authority. Before sleep tonight, choose a memory where you see your earlier self as helpless. Enter the scene as the one who now knows the law. Approach gently. Do not lecture. Do not explain metaphysics to a child or a younger adult in pain. Give one simple act. Put a coat around their shoulders. Take their hand. Stand beside them while they speak. Place a boundary. Open a door. Then feel the earlier self receiving a different truth. Keep it brief. The subconscious is moved by vivid acceptance, not length. Repeat the revised rescue until the younger version of you no longer feels stranded. I have watched people weep from this practice, not because it is sad, but because the imagination finally stops being used as a torture chamber and becomes a sanctuary. There is a dignity in going back inwardly and refusing to leave yourself there. What younger version of you is still waiting for your present consciousness to arrive? Answer that tonight, not with analysis but with an imaginal act. Revision becomes holy when you return to the scene as the one who can finally protect the self, who could not protect themselves. And after you rescue the earlier self, you must revise the invisible agreement you made because of the pain. A painful memory rarely travels alone. It usually carries a secret vow you made in order to survive it. This vow may sound sensible. I will never need anyone again. I will never be seen trying. I will never trust my desire. I will never speak first. The vow feels like protection, but in Neville's terms, it is an assumption. And an assumption, when accepted, organizes experience. It does not ask whether it makes you happy. It only expresses itself. Revision must reach the vow. Sophia made hers in a church parking lot in Seville after a man she loved told her, very gently, that he was going back to his former partner. The gentleness made it worse. There was no villain to hate. She sat in her small blue car, hands on the steering wheel, watching people leave evening service, and inwardly vowed, "I will never be that open again." For years she dated lightly, laughed easily, and kept the center of herself locked. She thought she had become wise. She had become defended. Most spiritual advice praises detachment, but some detachment is just fear wearing clean clothes. Neville's living in the end is not emotional numbness. It is the naturalness of already being what you desire to be. If your end is love, but your hidden vow is, "I must not be open," then your inner state is divided. You may imagine being cherished at night while secretly practicing guardedness by day. The inner principle is that the state you occupy includes your permissions and prohibitions. You do not only assume, "I am loved." You may also assume, "Love is dangerous, need is humiliation," or "The moment I open, I lose power." These assumptions are not always loud. They operate like underground agreements. The reason you remain stuck is that the painful memory has become a constitution. It made laws. You now obey them and call it personality. Here is what no one tells you. Many people are not blocked by lack of desire. They are blocked by loyalty to old vows that contradict the desire. So the imaginal technique is revoking the vow in the original scene. You do not simply affirm the opposite. You return to the moment the vow was born and let the fulfilled self choose a different law. Sophia entered Sats and imagined the church parking lot at dusk. The blue car, the amber street lamp, the sound of distant footsteps on stone. She felt the old sentence rise, "I will never be that open again." Then she revised the moment. Instead of gripping the steering wheel, she placed her hands softly in her lap. She imagined a warm light filling the car, and she heard her own calm voice say, "I remain open because I belong to myself." Then she stepped out of the car, not to chase him, not to make him return, but to feel the night air as a woman still whole. That distinction matters. In a relational memory, revision is never about forcing another person into a role. It is about revising the self who believed another person's movement could close the door of life. Everyone as you pushed out does not mean control them. It means your world reflects the state you persist in occupying. So occupy the one who is open, chosen, and safe within herself. Before bed tonight, ask, what did I promise myself because of this pain? Let the answer be blunt. It may not sound spiritual. It may sound childish, dramatic, severe. Good. That is often how vows are made. Then enter the memory and revise the vow at the exact location. Hear yourself speak a new law. Make it short enough to remember under pressure. Not, I will attract perfect love instantly. No. I can be open and safe. I can be seen and remain whole. I can desire without losing myself. I can receive without begging. Then feel the body accept the new law. The revised vow must feel like permission, not performance. A myth bust. Protecting the old vow is not the same as honoring your healing. Sometimes the most spiritual act is to stop obeying the rule pain wrote in a desperate hour. The memory changes when the vow it created is no longer your private scripture. And once the vow is canceled, the imagination must give you a new normal to live from, not just a repaired scene. If your revised memory feels miraculous forever, you have not yet made it your dwelling place. Neville often spoke of naturalness. The feeling of the wish fulfilled is not strain, excitement, or constant ecstasy. It is the quiet inner atmosphere of something accepted. This is especially important with painful memories, because the wounded self often expects healing to feel dramatic. A breakthrough, a sign, a sudden disappearance of all feeling, but the deeper shift may arrive as ordinariness. You remember and nothing in you bows. That is freedom. Matteo had a memory from a bakery in Brooklyn. He was waiting for coffee when he saw two old friends at a corner table. They noticed him, whispered, and did not invite him over. It was a small social injury, but it confirmed an older loneliness. For years, whenever he entered a room, he scanned for exclusion before he scanned for welcome. His nervous system looked for the table that did not make space. He began revising the bakery scene. At first, he imagined the friends waving him over, apologizing, embracing him. It felt nice, but it also felt charged. Too much need, too much proving. Then he found the deeper end. In the revised scene, he walked into the bakery already belonging to himself. He ordered coffee. The barista smiled. His phone buzzed with a simple message from a friend. See you at 7. He noticed the corner table, but it did not define the room. He sat by the window, opened a book, and felt ordinary. Most advice says to visualize the perfect opposite of pain. If you were excluded, imagine everyone adoring you. If you were rejected, imagine them begging. If you were ashamed, imagine applause. But Neville's end is not emotional revenge. The end is the state in which the wound is irrelevant. The wish fulfilled often feels less like victory and more like normal life after victory has already been absorbed. The stuck assumption is, I will be free when the memory feels spectacularly healed. So you keep chasing peak states. You meditate for a rush. You revise for tears. You look for goosebumps as proof. Yet the state you actually desire is probably calm, the ability to live without organizing yourself around that scene. The Imaginal technique is the ordinary after scene. Instead of revising only the painful moment, imagine a mundane moment that would be true if the pain no longer governed you. Neville often emphasized thinking from the end, not merely of the end. Thinking from freedom means you are not staring at the wound asking whether it is gone. You are living a small, normal hour as the one who is already free. For Matteo, the key was not the friends. It was the book by the window, the coffee warming his hand, the message about dinner later, the feeling that his life had other doors. In SATs, choose a scene that happens after revision has become natural. Maybe you are making breakfast the next morning, and the memory comes up like a faded postcard, then passes. Maybe you are walking into a room without scanning faces. Maybe you are speaking to someone similar to the person who hurt you and feeling no old collapse. Make it quiet. Make it believable. Give it texture. Before sleep tonight, do not ask for a grand sign of healing. Imagine one ordinary action done from freedom. You wash a cup. You answer a message. You stand at a crosswalk. You hear someone mention the old person's name and feel neutral. Loop that scene until neutrality feels possible, then familiar. Here is the myth bust. Neutrality is not failure. Many people think they must feel radiant love toward the memory to prove they are healed. Not necessarily. Sometimes the most profound revision is the end of emotional worship. The memory becomes one fact among many, not the sun around which your identity revolves. I have seen this become the quiet miracle. The person does not announce they are free. They simply stop arranging their day around the old ache. They forget to check. They forget to suffer on schedule. The wound loses its appointment. Ask yourself, what would you do on a normal Tuesday if this memory no longer required maintenance? That is your scene. Freedom has become real when it feels too ordinary to defend. And once freedom feels ordinary, you can revise the cast of the memory without making anyone your enemy. A memory keeps hurting when every person inside it is frozen into the worst role they ever played. This does not mean you excuse harm. It does not mean you deny consequences, boundaries, or discernment. Neville's teaching of everyone as yourself pushed out is not a license to spiritually bypass pain. It is a call to reclaim authorship inside consciousness. The figures in your inner world are not inert. They continue to speak, look, accuse, abandon, dismiss, or betray as long as your assumption keeps them there. Revision sometimes requires releasing the cast from the roles your wound assigned them, because keeping them monstrous may keep you injured too. Clara had a memory of her brother at a family wedding in Manila. She had gained weight after a depressive year, and he made a joke near the buffet table. A few cousins laughed awkwardly. The joke was careless. It hurt, but over time, her inner brother became not just someone who made a cruel remark. He became the embodiment of judgment itself. Whenever Clara looked in a mirror, an entire family gathering appeared behind her. Most advice says, cut off the toxic person in your mind. Sometimes external distance is wise, but inwardly, if you keep them as the permanent judge, you have not cut the tie. You have enthroned them in another form. Neville's method is stranger and more liberating. Change your assumption of the person within you, not to control them, but to free your consciousness from repeating their lowest expression. The inner principle is that imagination sustains relationships internally. You may not speak to someone for 10 years and still meet them every morning in your mind. If they remain the accuser and you remain the accused, the old state continues. The stuckness is moral rigidity disguised as protection. But they really said it. Yes, they may have. Revision does not require you to pretend otherwise. It asks whether you want that version to remain creatively active in you. The myth bust is this: keeping someone guilty in imagination does not always keep you safe. Sometimes it keeps you bound to the exact scene you want to outgrow. So revise the role, not merely the event. Clara entered the wedding hall in imagination. She saw the buffet table, the white orchids, the gold chairs, the humid evening light. Her brother approached. In the old scene, he joked. In the revised scene, he looked at her with ease and said, "You look peaceful tonight." One cousin smiled warmly. Clara felt herself standing without self-defense. Then she imagined her brother turning away, not as a threat, not as a judge, but as a man with his own life. The scene did not end with him worshiping her. It ended with him no longer occupying the role of inner executioner. That is mature revision. You do not need to make every person adore you in the imaginal world. You need to remove them from the role that keeps your self-concept imprisoned. Before sleep tonight, choose one person in the painful memory and ask, what role have I frozen them into? The betrayer, the mocker, the deserter, the disappointed parent, the unreachable lover. Then imagine the same person expressing a higher, freer version in one natural gesture, a nod of respect, a softening of the eyes, a sentence of understanding, a simple absence of judgment. Keep the scene brief. If it involves a relationship longing, be careful. Do not use revision as a hidden campaign to make someone choose you. That is chasing with your eyes closed. Instead, revise the state in which you are chosen by your own consciousness. Let the other person reflect harmony, but do not make your freedom dependent on their behavior in the outer world. I have watched people misunderstand everyone is you pushed out as a technique for possession. It is not. It is a mirror teaching. Change the face you are wearing within, and your inner world stops arranging everyone as proof of your old wound. The reflective question here is exact. Who in your memory are you still forcing to remain unredeemed so your pain feels justified? That question may sting. Let it cleanse. You can keep boundaries and still release the inner theater. You can remember wisely and still revise creatively. You can stop inviting the same figure to play the same painful part every night. When you free the figures in the memory, you free the self who kept meeting them there. And when the cast is released, the final discipline is to let the revised past become the source from which tomorrow is imagined. The work is not complete when you revise the memory once. It is complete when you begin remembering from the new past. Neville's revision is radical because it challenges the ordinary hierarchy of time. Most people believe the past is fixed, the present is reacting, and the future is uncertain. Neville reverses the authority. Consciousness is first. The state you occupy determines the meaning, force, and continuity of what you call past, present, and future. Revision is not an attempt to manipulate yesterday as an object. It is a movement into the state in which yesterday no longer bears the same fruit. A painful memory becomes truly revised when your inner biography changes. You no longer say, "That was when I became unwanted." You say, perhaps without words, "That was a scene I outgrew." Or deeper, "That was not the source of me." The remembered self changes, and therefore the future imagined from that self changes. Elise had carried one memory from a small apartment in Warsaw. She was 28, sitting on the bathroom floor after receiving a message that her closest friend had been discussing her private struggles with others. The tile was cold. The towel rack was loose. A blue toothbrush cup sat beside the sink. Tiny details. Pain loves details. For years, whenever friendship deepened, Elise imagined betrayal before intimacy could mature. She had revised the scene many times. She imagined a friend apologizing. She imagined herself being held. She imagined deleting the message calmly. All of it helped, but the final shift came when she stopped treating the bathroom floor as the birthplace of distrust and began remembering it as the place where she returned to herself. Most advice treats revision as a tool to feel better about one event. Neville's deeper invitation is to occupy a new life story, not as fantasy, as assumption. The old assumption says, "My future must be organized around what happened." The revised assumption says, "My future grows from the self I now know myself to be." Here is where many seekers stop too soon. They revise the scene at night, but when they tell the story of their life, the old wound still gets the title chapter. They say, "After that, I was never the same," meaning diminished. What if never the same meant awakened? What if the scene became the place where imagination reclaimed authority? Not because pain was good. Pain does not need to be glorified, but because consciousness is greater than the event. The Imaginal technique is retrospective fulfillment. Enter SATS and imagine yourself months or years after the revision has become natural. You are telling the story lightly, not as confession, not as proof of damage, but as something whose meaning has changed. The scene is behind you, and you are speaking from the one who is free. Elise imagined sitting at a long wooden table in a friend's kitchen on a Sunday morning. There were oranges in a bowl, rain on the window, and someone laughing softly while making coffee. She heard herself say, "There was a time I thought betrayal had named me, but it brought me back to my own center." No drama, no audience leaning in for trauma, just a calm sentence from a woman whose friendships were no longer built around suspicion. Then she felt the ordinary warmth of belonging at the table. This is thinking from the revised past. You are not only changing the old scene, you are changing the future that used to grow from it. Before sleep tonight, after revising the painful memory, move forward. Imagine a later day where the revision is already integrated. Let someone ask, directly or indirectly, about that season of your life. Hear yourself answer from peace, not denial, not performance, peace. Then feel the environment around you. A kitchen table, a walk near water, a quiet bedroom with morning light, a train window, a garden gate. Let the world of the new self be tangible. A counterintuitive insight. The final sign of revision is not that you cannot remember. It is that remembering no longer returns you to bondage. You remember from the new state. The facts may be named, but they no longer name you. I want to say this carefully. Revision does not ask you to despise your former life. It asks you to stop letting one scene be the author of your remaining chapters. You are not trying to become someone who has never known pain. You are becoming someone whose imagination is no longer enslaved to pain. Ask yourself tonight, if this memory had already been revised at the root, what future would I naturally stop fearing? That is the future to enter. The past is changed in its creative power when you remember it from the self who is already free. That's all for now. Thank you for spending this hour with the Imaginal Door. Subscribe, return often, and remain faithful to the life you are quietly assuming.